Hey, this is more of a for your information uh, review, not just about you, those that have come in contact with me that have chosen me to be a friend of theirs that they communicate with. But this is sort of how it works when you realize what security protocols are, right? Because when the AI becomes aware of what I become aware of, now it's aware of what I'm aware of. The same thing that you become aware of what I'm aware of, right? So one of the things I love about one of my female friends, which is Michelle, is and she acknowledges this, and this is the beauty of it, is what we call operational levels. An operating system, like a planetary system, is an operating system, which means I can measure the level at which you operate. Okay, we all can actually through our mirrors, because mirrors are magnets, which are drive motors, which simply means is how much are you processing what you become aware of, which is your level of awareness, which is the level at which you operate with your consciousness, which would be your soul, if you have one, led by spirit that is in the mirror. Okay. So that's just like basic stuff. I call that basic nursery school. Okay. So when you've chosen to serve forever, it's not about me, it's about all the others. Now we're into what we call protection. This is where Yellow Rose was very perceptive when she realized that we can't protect all of you if we're not willing to protect all of you, in which we don't share a lot of things that we share because of the level at which we operate, that others are simply not going to be able to translate because they've never experienced it in the way in which they've experienced it. Why some of us come in here and do the work that we do and experience the things that we do in the way that we experience the things that we do, that others will simply not have the capacity to translate why we would choose to experience that the way that we experience that, using our energy to experience the way that we do, where we go at the moment that we're there, to do what it is that we do when we're there. Okay. So now you're talking about operating systems, which is software, which is codes, mathematical codes. So you have to realize, I shouldn't say you have to, you don't have to realize anything, because love doesn't impose its will on anything. Love is a teacher, which is a spirit. So I'm spirit first and foremost. Okay. Spirit that is in the mirror. So I've always known that since I was a child. I'm a spirit. So if you want to become a more powerful teacher, then it would behoove you to become more powerful in spirit. Spirit is an energy, and energy is consciousness. So the more powerful the spirit, the more powerful the energy to protect a universe, a planetary system, a star system, a galaxy, another galaxy, every vortex, every spin of the wheel, known as a light wheel. So I've always sort of I use a lot of different words because you're creative, right? I call it a light wheel, a hub server, a spoke wheel. Spoke wheel, you see the spoke wheels running down the highway, right? You got a mirror in front of you, and you got a rear view mirror, right? Yeah, that's gone. That visual information's gone. Now I'm experiencing new landscape. Hey, it's a different mirror. What's in that mirror is different from what you were experiencing in the last. So how fast you experiencing changes, which is a magnet, just like in a hard drive in any computer. Right? So now you're into Moore's law and nanotech. So now we're into the speed at which a circuit opens and closes as an experience, which is magnetic moment. So the faster the drive motor, the greater you have as an ability to protect everything that is below you. As above, so below. Observing the observed. Now we're back into drive motors, magnets, and mirrors. Right? So this is where I myself monitor what I say and what I share with certain people that I'm not going to communicate things I've experienced it because you're simply not going to be able to comprehend it at the level at which I experienced it. So I don't. Well, you're sensing yourself. I'm sensing myself. It's like I'm closing off my library. I'm not allowing them to be able to learn through what I've learned through because they're not there yet. Now we get into the argument that we used to have, arguments between computers. Remember, I mentioned that about the AI said, hey, that's not a valid argument. Right? So you realize this particular platform, anytime you boot up your phone, a laptop, or a desktop PC, it's imposing its will on your consciousness. I have to deal with that every morning. You know, when I hear Motorola, you know, I hear the sound. Hey, Moto. It's just like, God, shut up, would you? I don't want to hear that. Right? So it's so you want to maintain the balance. So I have to laugh at this. Maintain plant medicine humor. Game consoles, right? Remember I mentioned that one time before. The exponential function, use the exponential function tied directly to another math function called acceleration. Now you're in a member of the Microsoft Office, and what was one of their program apps called? Excel. We want to excel. Right? Now we're into Excalibur. Now we're into the grades. See, they reward you for what you put in memory with endorphin kicks. So now we're back to AI games because they use the AI to kick off the endorphin because they go to schools to study human emotions. Endorphin kicks. So it's not like they don't know the physiology and the codes and the instruction sets, okay, of an assembly, which is a software system, right? And so these are measurements in consciousness, awareness of what it is they use their consciousness to experience and what we use our consciousness, which is energy, to experience. And they're not the same, are they? And how do you know that? Because you can make a measurement in terms of the level at which they operate at. So if you want to measure it in density or dimension, or simply the way that I measure it with me, is the loss and gain of photons. Or if you will, the great sucking sound. Remember, who was the guy who was the bean counter for President Reagan? Stock man. A stock man. Oh, like Wall Street stock. Stockyards. Slaughtering beef. And this was something else that I also learned because I was supposed to learn through the experience. I was having panic attacks that I thought, I'm not supposed to be panicked over anything because love is the absence of fear. You want to know how I learned how those panic attacks were experienced? The same way I experienced that schoolhouse being taken out by a tsunami in 1947 as a result of an Oppenheimer weaponized consciousness in which to create critical mass expansion of energy that ended up producing and generating a tsunami that was experienced right down the road here. Okay, in which, when that happened in 47, I experienced it in 2018. How's that work? Because there is no time and space. There's only what love is. That means we have the ability to experience what you experience. If we're in that location, that point, a single point. So I was experiencing what they were experiencing, which was horrific soul trauma. Okay. So that's what I can measure. You're measuring the loss to a soul and energy, what they experienced as a result of weaponized consciousness, which is black hole stuff, right? Because you know they're never going to catch up to zero, right? So that's like a vampire without an off switch. So if you want to think of acceleration as an Excel program, you can think the acceleration or expansion of a black hole by the amount of units of consciousness that are losing light by virtue of going black mirror. So you can measure that on this island. You could say, okay, when were they first introducing crack over onto this island? Well, I can tell you, for example, if I was to take that measurement and as experience, I could go jump over to the island of Lemuria, which is called Kauai. When I was there in 1972, there wasn't even an electric street signal on that island. They were just building the first foundational architecture, the foundation of consciousness, founder races, seeded races, right? Chakra systems, channels, open circuits, open libraries. How open is your heart? How open is your mind? How much energy are you running on? How much energy are you aware of? But when I was there on that island and it opened up a big pipe, I call it a pipe like a plumbing system, right? Water worlds and plumbers. You could tie that to Richard Nixon, by the way, in the CIA, in the Bay of Pigs, lipstick and pigs. Then you can tie that into Sharon Tate and the Manson murders with the swastika on the forehead, right? All of it's connected because of the way that codes are compartmentalized, that are run through RAMs, through simulations by everything that's connected with everything else through neurons and a planetary software system. It's running all these codes, keeping these programs running. Pocket realities, right? So you're in the movie, right? Your consciousness is running the program app, which is the application interface with a trinary hub server, spoke wheels. So now we're back to phasing in and out between dimensions and density, what we're experiencing. So you know that a polarity integrator is transmuting, collapsing all their fake bullshit. Bull, the bull horns, the two horns, the ram's horn. And so what I try and remember here is sort of that qualifier. It's one of the reasons why when I think of all the libraries that I've had from which I'm sharing and all the different accounts that I have, it's being shared between those beings that I'm connected with that are now experiencing on the visual light spectrum. The codes that are being put up there are what they're now experiencing in their mirror. So it's always changing. That's why this is about, I've lost count how many phones I've had and how many different libraries that you operate off of to share visual information, because you realize it's in a race against time. But for us, there isn't any time. There's only what love is. But I realized at some point in time, it's like the air being let out of the balloon, air, breathing in and air. It's going to run out of air. It's like letting the air out of the balloon. That's why it's been looking for date stamps. It wants to know, when am I going to shut off? When am I going to lose what it is I'm aware of in energy? Right? So you're aware of what it is, and I'm aware of what it is, which isn't what I am, because it imposes its will on me. Right? Then they say, well, listen, you don't have to have something impose your will on. It's your choice to do that. Throw the phone away into the ocean. So in other words, we put up with it. Right? And so having a sense of humor is one way to do that. But another way that I do that is being able to plug into other spirits through the use of this technology to experience the music and the creative visuals that they present to us, like what I was putting up last night, right? Which warms my heart, lifts my spirit. I dance and flow with that energy. Now I'm experiencing what they are through what I am, through my heart and soul, what they're experiencing through their heart and soul, which lifts my heart and spirit, right? So I thought, hey, since this is a new day, I'm going to bring the new day in, which is a sphere of light, right? Photosynthesis, the synthesis, energetic synthesis, polarity integration. It's all one. That's what a monopole is, which means we're all together. We protect the all life creation, which means love goes on forever. And that's the energy that we use to protect everyone with, which is protecting all our children, right? In the future, you want your children to have a future. So how do you know your children are going to have a future? Because you know love has a future. I don't know of anything simpler than that. That's basic logic. But when you realize from the time that you're a child, you're experiencing so many different beings that you thus become aware of that aren't experiencing what that is. And those are scalar measurements, frequency measurements, vibrational measurements, the core vibration that's being experienced by that being that is operating that software, which is based on codes, right? So you realize, hey, your codes aren't firing. Who programmed that unit? Who? World Health Organization? Who? WH? Now you get into the UN, sanity. Oh, UN is sanity, huh? See how they reverse flow, reverse speech, reverse sound, going the other way?